What's up, everybody? It's your girl Nisha. Welcome back to another episode of Laughing and Crying. This podcast explores both the beautiful and the painful experiences that relationships can bring. And yes, that even means the relationship that we have with ourselves. So prepare to laugh at all the stupid mistakes that I've made in my own relationships, and it's been a lot, so that we can ultimately learn from them and heal from them. Of course, if you're new, welcome back. Thanks for joining me on this journey, this wild ride. And for everyone else, what's up, podcast land? Welcome back, and thanks for being my people, of course. If you think more people should listen to the show, you can help me get the podcast noticed by sending an episode to a friend, writing a review on Apple Podcasts, or by continuing to share it on social media. And don't forget to tag me at Unleash the Niche when you share. And if you yourself want to go deeper into the topics, laugh a little bit harder, join me over on Patreon. If you have a podcast episode idea, that would be the place to let me know. It's where I go for my inspiration. Also on Patreon, you get the podcast early and you get personal vlogs of me and my family and much more. So you don't want to miss out on that opportunity. So on today's episode, we're going to start out with the new segment that I've been doing, Did You Hear About? And then get into a conversation that's titled, There'll Be Days Like This. And this podcast is going to be a little bit more low-key, a little bit a different energy, which I'm okay with if you are. And it's going to be a little bit shorter. My Did You Hear About segment will kind of lead into the conversation. And you'll kind of understand what I'm talking about when I get into it. So it's been a while now. So I'm hoping that you heard about, but if you haven't, I'm still processing something that I heard about a while ago that kind of hit our community as people hard. And it's the death of Twitch. Twitch was a dancer. He hosted Ellen. He did a lot of things for the community. He was an inspiration to a lot of aspiring dancers, and he just all around had a great attitude. He had a family, he had a wife, he had 3 kids, I believe, 2 girls and a boy. I could be mistaken, so correct me if I'm wrong. I know that he had at least 2 girls. And it just really rocked my world when I heard that he took his own life. And just to know that it's real out here in these streets, man. It's really, really, really real. And portions of that I've experienced in my own life and my own situation, where just the weight of emotions can take over you. It was really scary to hear that. It was really wild and just heavy to know what he left behind. And there is no judgment, 100% no judgment from me. Someone going through something like this and ultimately making that decision, I don't judge because I understand. And I know that there is a choice to keep going, and there is a choice to be made in the other direction. And at the end of the day, I didn't walk in his shoes. And so I can't judge his feelings. I can't put any kind of criticism on that. I think ultimately what rocks my world is I felt very similar feelings. And it's funny because I just recently did a podcast with a friend on her podcast where I told my story, and if you know me, you know my story most likely, because it's something that at this point in my life I open up a lot about, because I want other people to understand the impacts of depression and suicidal ideation and expectation and all of these different types of things. I just want people to understand how far it could take you and where it can leave you. Twitch has always been an inspiration to me because I watched him from So You Think You Can Dance. He started out in that kind of arena, at least in the limelight, and then just slowly but surely just blew up because of his spirit, his genuine happiness and all of that. So the conversation moving outside of Twitch, because I don't want to belabor something that the whole world has probably gotten really far in their grieving process about. But the conversation that I wanted to have is called There'll Be Days Like This, as just a anthem for people who understand what it's like to feel heavy. I personally have a story of feeling heavy often. I have ADHD, and one of the emotions that kind of come with ADHD a lot of times is linked with anxiety and depression, and there is a battle with that as you battle ADHD itself. I have a podcast actually coming up with my husband where we kind of talk about some of the feelings that people don't really understand that are tagged along with ADHD, and that are heavy for someone dealing with it. But I just want to do a little check-in, not only with you but myself, to on this podcast, as vulnerable as I can be about mental health, and just kind of touch a couple of different points. First, I just want to say it is real. Whether you're a believer like me, a Christian, or whether you're not, or whether you believe in therapy or you don't, it doesn't matter. The awareness of your mental health, the state of your mental health is extremely important. Don't let anybody tell you anything different. I don't know where you stand at today. I don't know what coping mechanism you've picked up, whether it be something positive or something negative, but just know that it can take you further than you want to go. The negative impacts of mental health, not dealing with it, can take you further than you want to go and leave you longer than you want to stay. And so I just urge you to check in on a couple of these things. I'll go down a list. And like I said, PSA, it's a little bit of a heavier episode just because normally you guys get the giggles and the laughs from me and the hee ha-has, and this time I'm a little bit more calm and collected, and it's because I really, really take this topic seriously, not because I don't want to laugh with you guys. Laughing is great and it's great medicine, but also I understand there are people out here dealing with real issues where they're putting on a face every single day, laughing, and it's not a joke. And so just for this episode, just kind of ride with me on this one. So a couple of things that I just urge you to check in with yourself today is, have you asked a professional whether or not you're dealing with something more than just your everyday woes in regular life? Do you have some sort of extended anxiety? Do you have depression? Do you have ADHD? Do you deal with bipolar? Do you deal with some other mental disorder? I am not a therapist. I will say that now. I am not a therapist. I do not claim to be a therapist. I do not want to be a therapist. I have friends who are therapists and they can do their thing. But one thing I really encourage you to check in with a professional with is that there are a lot of things that can affect your mental health that sometimes is just plain ignorance. Like, we don't know. We don't know what's normal and what's not. What is really normal, right? Sometimes we can be coping with something for a very, very, very long time and not realize that that is what we're doing. In fact, I had ADHD, I'm assuming since I was very small, and I didn't learn about it till about 4 years ago. And I am currently 31. So I was a full-fledged grown adult when I learned I had ADHD. And so all of these other symptoms of ADHD, I coped with for a very long time, and it was extremely hard to do so, being ignorant. So I just encourage you that if you have not seen a professional, to ask them, hey, is there anything that I am having symptoms of? Anything I need to watch out for? If you have things that run in your family, like if bipolar runs in your family, so schizophrenia, ADHD, hyperanxiety, anything runs in your family, go get it checked out. Because just like you would go get your blood pressure checked, and just like you would go, get checked for cancer or whatever the case may be, mental disorders, although they can't be seen, can be just as impactful in your life. Second thing that I would ask you is, if you have not seen a therapist, I would encourage you to do so. I don't know what happened in your life that maybe you're not keen on therapy. I will again lead with vulnerability on this one. I had an incident that happened when I was very young where I was betrayed by a therapist, and I was too young to kind of stand in the gap for myself, and there was nobody who really did that for me. And they caused a lot of drama in my life by betraying me the way that they did. I told them something. They ended up telling my parent, which is not something that was supposed to happen in this particular scenario. It was nothing that was going to hurt me. It was nothing that was going to affect it, but it caused a lot of drama. And I did not trust therapists for a very, very long time. I also have a husband who grew up in the Black community, so I'll speak to us. And by us, I mean people in the Black community who grew up hearing that you don't tell your business to anybody. You don't talk to anybody about anything. Everything stays within the family. Everything stays, and if it's not in the family, it stays shut off and shut down. I encourage you, go see a therapist. It is only going to help you. And therapists are just like any other relationship. There are people who are going to be shady. There are people who are going to be great. And it's your job, ultimately, to walk that relationship out and be just as vulnerable. I walk into every therapist relationship and I say, hey, I have a thing about therapists. I don't really trust you guys. So like the trust has to be earned in this situation. And they're completely fine with that. And if they're trustworthy people, they will take the time to earn your trust. And if not, sayonara, sucker. They can exit stage left. You know what I mean? Because that relationship is just as important as any other relationship in your life, right? Third thing I'll say is if you have and have already been diagnosed with something by a professional, not by yourself, by a professional, I encourage you to cope with it, yes. But if there is some other treatment available to you, open your mind to the possibility of how that could help you. I, again, like I said, for 4 years had ADHD and did not realize, this is something that I should actually take seriously until I met my husband and he had it as well. And I recognized more so in him how it was impacting his life more than I recognized it in myself, because sometimes we're the last people that we want to take care of. And so I just really encourage you as well to not wait like I did and to do what I wish I would have done, which is said, hey, what is available to me? Whether it's a specified version of therapy or if it's a medicine, a natural medicine, whatever it is, do not overlook it. Guys, like this is like your mental health is a part of your overall health. So I just encourage you to do that. Next thing I would say, just as a check-in, like I said, is check in on your expectations. I didn't notice this until, like I said, I've gotten a lot of wisdom from a lot of people who are smarter than me, that at times expectations can lead us to days like this. Expectations of where we're supposed to be in life, how many children we're supposed to have, how quick we were supposed to get pregnant, how quick we were supposed to get married, what our friends were supposed to do and what they weren't supposed to do, what our family was supposed to be, what they weren't supposed to be, what our job was supposed, it can go on, right? And so checking those expectations and really level setting them and saying, hey, there is no supposed to. Whatever life you have, you are equipped for it, and just understand that your strength goes far beyond sometimes what you can see. If you guys only knew like a tiny bit of my story, man, there are people who look at me and say, you went through what? And sometimes it's hard for me to think about. It's hard for me to understand. But at the end of the day, you are far stronger than you think you are. And so those expectations of what you're supposed to do, because if you were supposed to do this, then your life would have been this, and then everything would have worked out, is really all, I'll say it for you if you don't say it for yourself, bull crap. Like, it just really is unfair to put those kind of expectations even on yourself, to put that type of pressure on yourself. And so just taking a look at our expectations, writing them down and just saying, hey, is this really something that is fair for me to expect either out of life or from myself? Because that sometimes can put in check some of the emotions that we're feeling when we realize there is no shoulds, and you get an opportunity to create your next step. You get an opportunity to create what perspective you want to have. And the last thing I'll end with is making sure you're not avoiding the support around you. I think there are so many times where there were people around me waiting and willing to support me, and I wanted to live in the lie that I was a victim and I was undeserving of help, and I was undeserving of support, and I was undeserving of love, to the point where I convinced myself that nobody was for me. I think sometimes there is a reality where you're in a space where you have a lot of crappy people around you and nobody's really for you. And so I don't want anybody who's really living that to hear what I'm saying and take it as your feelings don't matter, or I'm disregarding or invalidating them. I think more so I'm speaking to the people who you have strong relationships. You have people who love you. You have people who call you best friend and say, reach out to me when you need them. And people are going to fail. There are times where you're going to reach out to people and they don't reach back. There are times when people who say, oh yeah, call me anytime, and they're too tired to talk, and they don't get a chance to call you back. And there are people who are like, I can handle this, and they get in the situation and they can't handle it. That's gonna happen. But know that you are loved and you are supported, and make sure you don't quit trying. You don't quit trying to reach out. You don't quit trying to tell people how you're feeling, because there is support for you. There is help for you. And if it goes beyond your circle of friends, there is the suicide helpline. There is resources in your community. There are free resources in your community as well. All of those things are available to you. And as crappy as America can be sometimes, I think that there are some resources out here for us that America does a good job at providing, whether it be for free or at a cost that is extremely affordable. So if you don't have those, I know for a fact, if you call the suicide helpline and you just say, hey, I need some resources. I think my mental health is suffering and I just need to know what I can do. I don't have money to pay for a therapist, or whatever the case may be, they will direct you in the right place. So the suicide helpline is 988 if you want those resources, or you just need someone to talk to. They have a crisis line where if you're like an immediate need, and they have I think it's called like a soft line, a line where if you just need to call for support to talk, they have that line as well. And that's completely confidential, so nobody ever has to know about it. And if you're dealing with suicidal ideation at all, suicidal ideation meaning you're thinking about taking your life, you're creating plans to take your life, you failed at attempts at taking your life, all of that type of thing. I know it's heavy, but listen, it's real. And I don't want anybody out here in the world thinking that there aren't people that are beside you working. There are people in your family who are not thinking these things or feeling these things. So if you are, know that you can call that line and they will be by your side and on your side, and they will direct you to the resource that you need. And sometimes we got to put our weight on things that don't feel safe, they don't feel comfortable, because it is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to ask for help. But listen, in honor of these people who have taken their lives, let's try to find the resources that we need to get the help that we deserve, right? And on behalf of everyone who struggles with depression and anxiety, someone told me this quote that I try to keep close to my heart, which is, looking too far back can cause depressive thoughts. Looking too far in the future can cause anxious thoughts. Being present brings peace. And I hope that you walk into your week or the rest of your week knowing that you can be present and have peace. It's funny because as a Christian, sometimes when people say these like flowery things, I think, that doesn't really line up with what I believe. But the reality is, it's also biblical. The Bible also speaks to this. It also speaks about being present. And so this isn't just flowery words. It isn't just fluff enough to people who are, even people who are Christians. Being present brings peace. Don't look too far in the future. We can't handle it. We can't force things to happen in our favor. Don't look too far in the past. We can't change it. It's already done. The peace is in the present. So I love you. Please check in with yourself. I'm doing my best to check in with myself. Guys, check on me as much as you can. Life be lifing. Life be hard. The world needs you here. Period. I hope you feel great. I'm not going to ask you how you feel because you're supposed to be asking yourself, how do you feel? If you need to reach out to me in any way, please do so. If you need to reach out to the suicide helpline, please do so. If you need to reach out to a friend or a therapist, please do so. There are so many resources out there for you. Listen, this is one of those episodes where this is about the relationship that we have with ourselves, and we cannot put on anyone else's oxygen mask until we put on our own. So I hope you took away something from this conversation that we had today. I know it was deep. Sometimes that happens. We'll laugh next week. Make no mistake, though, I would love to hear what you would like me to talk about, or anything that is on your mind that says, like, that you're saying, Niche, talk about this next. I'm here for that. Hit me up on Instagram, where I'm most active at Unleash the Niche, or any other platform where I'm also on as Unleash the Niche. That's Unleash THA Niche. And if you have any interest in getting the podcast early, vlogs with me, myself, and my family, join the Patreon. Head to patreon.com/unleash the niche to join the niche gang. And that's what I call the people of my Patreon. Just saying. It's $10 a month, less than a Chick-fil-A meal most of the time. Support your girl. Well, that's it. Stay well. Know you're loved. I loved hanging out with you, of course. And maybe we can impact the world or something. I'll leave it at that. Bye.